The very first act of the Albanese government was to approve the expansion of the biggest fossil fuel project in this country. Had they taken that to the election, places like Bean, where they won by 350 votes, could have been a very different story.
Righto, buckle up, legends. Pour yourself a flat white, grab a sausage roll, and prepare your eardrums for a wild ride through the gum tree-strewn paddocks of Australian politics, where bold speeches clash with baffling policies, and the only thing hotter than the climate is the temperature in the Senate chamber when David Pocock gets going. Now I know what you're thinking. Wait, David Pocock? Isn't he that footy bloke? Yep, the very one. Once smashing rucks on the rugby field, now smashing expectations in Parliament like a tradie demolishing a dodgy carport. But today, oh today, he took one big political swing, and guess who was standing squarely in the spotlight? Prime Minister Anthony. Caution over courage, Albanese. And let's just say, it wasn't exactly a standing ovation for Albo's policies. Real quick before we dive in, if you enjoy content like this, hit that like and subscribe. Over 98% of you watching right now aren't subscribed, and while it's free for you, it means the world to us and helps keep this content coming. So go ahead, click that button, and let's jump into the video.
It's been nearly 3 months since the 47th Parliament rose, and in that time I've met Canberrans here at Parliament House, where 1,000 people turned up to listen to Dr. Mo talk about his experiences as an emergency doctor in Gaza, at town halls, roundtables, mobile offices and in the community. And from every conversation, one message is clear. We need a parliament with courage, not caution. We need a parliament tackling the hard reform, not just chasing a headline. But in this place, I'm concerned that urgency is lacking, that the big vision is missing. Canberrans aren't asking for miracles. We're asking for a government that matches the magnitude of the challenges with the strength of its response. And the first issue Canberrans raise again and again is housing, because without a safe, affordable place to live, nothing else works for people. More than 3,100 Canberrans are languishing on the waiting list for public housing. That's not a waiting list, it's a warning sign. And if we're not treating housing as a human right, what kind of society are we building? And when it comes to urgency, you just have to look at the CSIRO Ginninderra site. This is well-located, previously used land that's been sitting idle for a decade. We heard so much about federal and territory Labor working together on these sorts of issues, and after 3 years, nothing. It's time to get on with this and other projects to make housing more affordable. Just as urgent as the need for shelter is the need for a livable planet. We're part of nature. We cannot lose sight of that. We are part of nature, and if nature goes down, we are going down with her. And the very first act of the Albanese government was to approve the expansion of the biggest fossil fuel project in this country. Had they taken that to the election, places like Bean, where they won by 350 votes, could have been a very different story. We need better from our elected representatives. The Parliament has an opportunity to deliver reform that measures up to the scale of the crisis. Just look at what's happening in South Australia. We can start with an ambitious 75% floor on our 2035 emissions reduction target. And Canberrans know that climate action is good economics. In all of this is an opportunity when it comes to electrification and the democratisation of an energy system, to actually make it work for households, to be saving thousands of dollars every year if we get it right. What we need is political courage. And there are the numbers in this parliament to do exactly that. On health, Canberrans have very high hopes from the very welcome announcements from the Labor government about affordable and accessible healthcare. We have the lowest bulk billing rate in the country. It's cheaper to drive to Goulburn to get an MRI if you live in the ACT, and that's disgraceful. And this parliament has the opportunity to fix that. The promised 9 out of 10 GP visits to be bulk billed has to apply to people living in the ACT. Good health depends on good government, and Canberrans know the value of our democracy. But when we have whistleblowers like Richard Boyle being prosecuted and the NAC failing to hold one single public hearing, public confidence is eroded. We have to get on with the job of establishing a whistleblower protection authority and reforming the NAC so that there is confidence in our institutions. Canberrans also deserve fair representation in this chamber. Territory rights should be protected, and additional senators for the territories should be part of Labor's agenda this term. Gambling advertising. This is where community good butts up against vested interests, and almost 2 years from the landmark Murphy report. Silence. That's not good enough from a Labor government that has such a whopping majority. Use your political capital for something. Leave a legacy when it comes to gambling advertising in this country, where you have more people under the age of 18 betting than playing basketball. That's the country we live in. Let's change that. On AI, we've got to be clear-eyed about productivity gains, but also the real risks to jobs, privacy and democracy. We have an opportunity to harness the potential of AI, but we have to safeguard against its risks. These are all things that this parliament can and should do, and at every turn I'll be pushing the government for more ambition.
Now, before we dive headfirst into the sauce bottle of satire, let's get one thing straight. This is parody. Good old-fashioned Aussie parody. We're talking tongue-in-cheek, not foot-in-mouth. No hate, no drama, just good-natured roasting. Like your mates giving you grief for buying soy milk when you've never even seen a soybean in the wild. So here comes Senator Pocock stepping into the big house with more fire than a bush barbecue in December. First cab off the rank? Courage, or more specifically, the lack of it. Say it's been 3 months since the 47th Parliament called it a day, and you'd reckon that's enough time for Labour to whip up some bold ideas, yeah? Maybe cook a few policies, plant a vision, give the nation a bit of hope. Nah, apparently they've just been marinating in cautious vibes and half-baked headlines. Pocock's message is simple. We don't need politicians who spend more time crafting tweets than fixing problems. We need guts, not gloss. We need plans, not PR. And crikey, Canberra folks aren't asking for miracles. They're asking for homes. That's right. Homes, shelter, a roof over the head, something more substantial than a half-built housing promise and a dreamy PowerPoint slide. He reckons more than 3,000 Canberrans are waiting for public housing. That's not just a whoopsie, we're a bit behind list. That's a massive flashing neon warning sign. And yet Albo's government is out here doing the political equivalent of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Yep, fiddling around while the Aussie dream turns into the Aussie scream. And then, oh boy, Pocock takes out the big gumboot and gives Labour's housing policy the stomp it deserves. Turns out there's a juicy bit of land, CSRO land no less, just sitting there gathering dust like your Uncle Barry's treadmill. A prime spot for affordable housing, but what have we got after years of promises? Nada zilch. 3 years of Labour patting themselves on the back for, well, not much really. Now, just when you think this speech is done taking pot shots at half-baked ideas, Pocock kicks open the next door and goes full David Attenborough on us. Climate, nature, the big picture, and it's not just kumbaya tree-hugging stuff, he's talking cold, hard logic. We're part of nature, he says, and if she goes down, we go down too. And mate, he's not wrong. But get this, the very first thing the Albanese government did after getting comfy in office, approved the expansion of the country's biggest fossil fuel project. I mean, you couldn't write this stuff. It's like throwing a barbecue to protest bushfires. It's the political version of ordering a Diet Coke with your deep-fried cheesecake. Pocock doesn't mince words. He reckons if Labour had actually told people they were going to go full steam ahead on fossil fuels, they wouldn't have won in places like Bean. You know, that swinging seat they clung to with a whisker. So, yeah, more transparency, less trickery, says Pocock. Give the voters the real menu, not just the vegan-friendly version. And then, bam, he hits them with a climate plan, a real one. 75% emissions reduction floor by 2035. Ambitious? You bet. But that's the point. Because while Labour's out here handing out climate slogans like sausage samples at Bunnings, Pocock's actually thinking about how to electrify homes, save people thousands on their power bills, and maybe, just maybe, leave the planet better than a busted-up dust bowl. Next up on the chopping block, healthcare. And let me tell you, the roast continues. A CT has the lowest bulk billing rate in the country. Yep, lower than your hopes of finding a car park at Bondi on a public holiday. It's so bad that if you need an MRI in Canberra, it's cheaper to drive to Goulburn than to get one at home. That's not healthcare, that's a scavenger hunt. Pocock's not pulling punches. He wants that 9 out of 10 bulk billing promise Labour keeps bragging about to actually mean something for the ACT. Because what good is a policy if it works everywhere except where you live? But hang on, we're not done. Now we're getting into the spicy stuff. Whistleblowers, you know, those brave souls who risk it all to tell the truth. And what does the government do? Prosecutes them. Meanwhile, the National Anti-Corruption Commission, aka the NAC, is out here avoiding public hearings like they're allergic to sunlight. Transparency, more like translucency. David says we need a Whistleblower Protection Authority stat. And fair enough, if you can't protect the people who tell the truth, you're basically building democracy on quicksand. And speaking of fairness, Pocock calls out the need for proper representation for territories like the ACT. Apparently, people in the territories are still getting stitched up in the Senate like it's 1901, and Canberra's just a dusty cattle stop. It's 2025, mate. Give them the seat at the table they deserve. Oh, but just when you think this political picnic's winding down, boom, gambling, advertising, and folks, this one hits different. Australia, where you've got more under-18s betting on sports than actually playing them. And what's the Albanese government done since the landmark Murphy report 2 years ago? Nada. Not even a little slap on the wrist. For a government with a whopping majority, you'd think they could spare a little backbone. Maybe use that political capital instead of burying it under feel-good hashtags and cute photo ops. Now for dessert, Pocock brings out the AI discussion, because of course he does. A speech without AI in 2025 is like a meat pie without sauce. He's all for the productivity gains, but he wants guardrails too, like let's not accidentally hand over democracy to a chatbot, all right? Let's enjoy the tech boom without replacing every job with a toaster that can code. And finally, as the speech draws to a close, there's this strange feeling, hope, ambition, accountability, words we're not used to hearing in question time. Yeah, that's David Pocock for you, a bloke with a vision, a plan, and the political equivalent of a drop goal straight to the Albanese government's weak spots. So what have we learned today, folks? That parody or not, when you hear someone call for courage, truth, and real results, whether it's about housing, climate, health, gambling, or governance, you lean in, you listen, and maybe, just maybe, you wonder if our Parliament House needs less spin doctors and more former wallabies. Catch you later, legends. And remember, always read the fine print on political promises, especially if they sound too good to be true or come with a side of hot air and a ribbon-cutting ceremony.